Also tonight, private schools in Catch-22 situation as reopening dates remain unclear. Tens of private schools are also unsure if they shall be back in business at all. Plus, transport disrupted along Naivasha-Nakuru highway as herders and farmers clash over alleged destruction of food crops by kettles. And it's misery, loss and pain in Baringo as Lake Baringo and Bogoria continue to swell, swallowing homes and schools. Good evening. Tonight of all nights, Anne Wairimu is our sign language interpreter. TV47 News Tonight with me, Abubakar Abdullahi, begins right now. To our top story. A special audit conducted by the Office of the Auditor General has revealed gross mismanagement of public funds by the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, KEMSA. Monies that were designated for the procurement of medical supplies to combat the spread of COVID-19 in the country. The audit covered the months of March to July following calls by both the Senate and the National Assembly to conduct an audit into KEMSA funds after claims of corruption at the authority serviced. David Mudoka begins our broadcast tonight.
After months of being in the eye of the storm over claims of mismanagement of COVID-19 funds, the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority KEMSA appears to have jumped out of the frying pan into the fire following a probe conducted by the Office of the Auditor General. The Auditor General's report shows that KEMSA was at the center of misappropriation of billions of funds meant to fight COVID-19. Among the irregularities is the utilization of the Universal Health Coverage UHC and capital budget to fund COVID-19 related procurements without approval or authority, contrary to Public Finance Management Act 2012. The special audit further identified that KEMSA commenced COVID-19 related procurement processes without approved budgets. Pre-delivery samples were evaluated and communication given to suppliers to schedule delivery to KEMSA warehouses if accepted. There were, however, no controls and procedures undertaken to confirm availability of budgets before committing the suppliers. The audit also established that COVID-19 related items worth 8 billion shillings were irregularly procured. An age analysis conducted by the Nancy Gathungu-led special audit team established that 97% of COVID-19 items have been at KEMSA warehouses for more than 3 months. According to the report, it is therefore clear that KEMSA overprocured COVID-19 related stock without an objective assessment and forecasting of the existing demand for the products. The report further showed that KEMSA awarded tenders worth 1.26 billion shillings to companies that had been in existence for less than 1 year. Companies which, according to the Auditor General, had no necessary qualification and experience to supply specialized medical supplies. Among the companies, as outlined in the report, is Shop and Buy Limited that was awarded a tender worth 900 billion shillings to provide KEMSA with KN95 face masks and personal protective equipment PPEs. Kilig Limited that won a tender to provide PPEs worth 9 million shillings and NanoPay Limited that won a face masks tender worth 349 million shillings.
We established that procurements amounting to Kenya shillings 871,640,000 were made from firms that were not pre-qualified and therefore did not demonstrate adequate experience in dealing with medical products. For example, Kilig Limited and Shop and Buy and NanoPay Limited were registered on 22nd January 2020 and 14th February 2020 and 22nd August 2019, respectively, and yet they were awarded contracts.
KEMSA has already suspended 3 top officials, among them the authority's CEO Jonah Manjari, as the probe intensifies. David Mudoka, TV47.
Moving on, some private schools will not resume learning since they have been shut down completely due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Some of these schools have been turned to business centers. But what is the fate of students in such schools, with public schools around them already congested? Our reporter Andrin Kilemi visited some of these schools and has filed the following report.
The COVID-19 has hard hit the education sector in the country. Some private schools have been shut down. In Nairobi's Kasarani Estate is Castamil Primary School, which has been converted to a business center. The situation is no different in many private schools in Mwiki Ward, Kasarani. The ward has a total of 38 primary schools, out of which 37 are privately owned. Mwiki Primary School is the only public-sponsored school in the area. Out of the 37 private schools, 14 have been built on their owners' land, while 23 are on rented land. Brainstorm Primary School, which is adjacent to Mwiki Primary School, has already been shut down. The school had a population of 320 pupils, of which most of them are likely to join Mwiki Primary School, the only public school in the area. And with over 3,600 pupils in Mwiki Primary, the population is likely to surge even more.
Kabla hata hatuja wakaribisha wanafunzi wa shule zingine kuja kujiunga na sisi, tayari hilo litatizwa kwetu. Kwa sababu naona tuko na wanafunzi 3,551. Tunaelekea 4,000. Na ukiangalia idadi ya madarasa ambayo tuko nayo ni machache sana, 41.
Take for instance this classroom, which on a normal day has a total of 101 pupils, who uses 37 desks. Each desk accommodates 3 learners and has a length of about 2 meters, meaning learners here cannot maintain the 1.5 meter rule as recommended by the Ministry of Education. Mwiki's primary school head teacher Joseph Kamau, however, says the school has enough water storage facilities with sufficient water for regular hand washing as required by the Ministry of Health.
Tuko sawa, tuko na maji ya kutosha, tumepewa matangi mawili na serikali ya maji. One is 50,000 cubic centimeters na nyingine ni 48. Kwa hivyo sinaona ni maji mengi. Tuko na borehole. Kwa hivyo mambo ya usafi, kama ni shughuli za kuoga mikono, kuona kwamba watoto wetu wana usafi kwa madarasa, kusafisha madarasa, kusafisha vyoo.
For such a school, it will be a challenge adhering to some of the measures put in place for safe reopening of schools.
With some very special rules, like you're not supposed to throw a stone around, you're not supposed to run, you're only supposed to walk fast, yeah? No running. So, when it comes to parade time, as I've told you, is that you need to take your lane. Where you stand, you must make very minimal movement in terms of going the opposite direction.
Mwiki Primary School is not the only public school at a risk of receiving more pupils than it had once schools reopen. Andrin Kilemi, TV47, Nairobi.
Well, still on matters education, and Education CS Professor George Magoha says achieving social distancing in primary and secondary schools is impossible, and that the reopening of basic learning institutions is dependent on the performance of final year students in universities and TVET institutions who are set to resume learning next week. Nanok Lorraine has the details.
Basic learning institutions, including primary and secondary schools, may have to resume learning without social distancing. Education CS Professor George Magoha now says it will be hard to achieve the 1.5 social distance requirement even after schools resume.
I hasten to say, Honorable Chair, that having personally visited our basic institutions, we shall not achieve what we call social distance. It is a fact. If you want, you can go and interrogate yourself, and yet the children must open and go back to school.
The CS, however, says face masks will be mandatory for every student when they resume learning. But as the government's taxpayer base has dropped, production and distribution of face masks has been prioritized to vulnerable schools in the slums.
In order to explain to the honorable members, masks are going to be mandatory for every learner. And yet, the taxpayer base for government has reduced. So we have moved around to look for masks. And I'm glad to say that UNICEF is going to make masks, about 700,000 of them. And we are going to identify the schools which are vulnerable in the slums.
As the school reopening puzzle still remains unsolved for parents and students, CS Magoha now says that reopening of basic learning institutions is dependent on how final year students in universities and TVET institutions will behave once they reopen learning next week.
We are going to monitor, and if these adults are okay, and with thorough consultation, we may then bite the bullet and allow our children, and the concept is to start with the examination class. I can see Honorable Milemba shaking his head, but if you look at the map, I'm sure you see this. It is not my decision. In fact, mimi ni Surambaya tu, whatever I say is because the experts, the experts, the socials of this world, everybody, we sat down behind the back room and talked about this severally.
Nanok Lauren, TV 47.
Elsewhere, the staff at the Kenyatta National Hospital have suspended their strike that lasted for 3 days. The strike was suspended to pave way for a case already in court. Lynette Gidwa reports.
Health workers at the Kenyatta National Hospital will now report to work after the 3-day strike was suspended. Union leaders held a meeting with the Kenyatta National Hospital management, saying that the decision was in line with the ruling by the Employment and Labor Relations Court, suspending the strike pending the hearing of a case filed by the hospital.
Viongozi wetu na tumesema kwamba tutaheshimu mahakama, tutapikana ndani ya mahakama, tutawaruhusu murudi kazi na mtupe nafasi ya kuchapana wapi? Mahakama. Owing to the fact that we are law-abiding citizens and the courts have stood with us in many occasions, and there is no way we shall disrespect court orders and court directives.
Tumefanya uamuzi kwamba sisi target yetu ni hiyo pesa yenu yenye iko hapa, si ndio? Ya kulipa salary ya 7. That being our target. Please, and I beseech upon you that target, and I put that promise here, that we shall make sure you're paid that money.
The 3-week suspension of the strike will give the Salaries and Remuneration Commission time to get its house in order. The staff have, however, vowed to respect the rule of law pending the case in court. The case will be heard on 6th of October 2020. This strike comes after an 8-year tug-of-war between SRC and the medical staff over delayed salaries. Lynette Gidwa, TV 47.
Moving on, Deputy President William Ruto has defended himself over claims that he has absconded his constitutional duties as claims by his political rivals. Ruto says that the president can confirm that the claims are lies. Jubilee Vice Chair David Murathe, on the other hand, has maintained that the DP has absconded his duty. ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi now says Ruto is practicing a show-off.
Following an outcry after he skipped the national conference on COVID-19, Deputy President William Ruto has defended himself, the second in command, claiming that he has not absconded any constitutional duties.
Mimi hakuna kazi Rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya amenipatia na sijatimiza. Kila kazi, kila wajibu Rais wa Kenya ameniassign, akaniambia William, mimi nataka ufanye hii. He can confirm there is no assignment the President of Kenya has given to me that I have not discharged with distinction.
The chairman budget committee in the National Assembly, Kanini Kega, has already threatened to withdraw the budget in Ruto's office, claiming he has absconded his duties.
Wacha kazi ya kujiwekelea ya unyapara. Mimi najua ile kazi nimepatiwa kikatiba. Rais ambaye ni mkubwa yangu hajalalamika kwamba kuna kazi alinipatia sikufanya. Sasa wewe unalalamika kama nani? Na hiyo maneno unasema ya kwamba sijatimiza wajibu wangu, ulisikia wapi?
Jubilee Vice Chair David Murathe said that Ruto's constitutional duties were assigned to the Interior CS Fred Matiang'i over what he termed as Ruto's failure to work with the president.
That he is not assigned work. You know, his work was taken over by Matiang'i. Because Matiang'i is the minister coordinating other ministries. So the things he used to do nowadays are done by Matiang'i. He has cabinet committees every Tuesday.
Ruto has been holding several meetings in his current residence, meetings that he claims are aimed at empowering the youth.
So what happens? Beyond the wheelbarrow, what next? Beyond the water tank, what next?
The rift between the Deputy President and President Uhuru Kenyatta is already evident as Ruto pushes his 2022 presidential bid. Nancy Kimuyu, TV47.
All right, you are watching TV47 News Tonight with me, Abu Bakar Abdullahi. Keep talking to us. The hashtag to use is TV47 News. Send us a message on 22047. Time for us to take a short break. We still have a lot lined up for you. We'll be back with more after this break. Stay tuned.
Siku ya Jumatano tunazungumza, tunaulizana na tunajuzana masuala ibuka ya kisiasa.
Kuna Uhuru he is not in Kirinyaga.
Maisha yangu ni huru na watu wangu wanyali.
Tulivunja vyama vya URP na TNA na vyama vingine tanzu, ndio tukaunda chama inaitwa Jubilee.
Mijadala komavu kuhusu yanayokuhusu, na zaidi ya yote tunakupa nafasi kumfahamu kiongozi wako katika kipindi Fahamu Kiongozi.
Yako kama mtoto ilikuwa gani?
Mimi nilizaliwa, sasa najuaje maisha ilikuwa.
Wakati namuuliza maisha.
Kwanza ilikuwa tu ni jaribu kabisa kufikia pahali ambapo nitafika Nairobi. Najua ilikuwa ni kazi ambayo ilichukua siku mingi sana kufika Nairobi.
Kila siku ya Jumatano kuanzia saa 1:30 hadi saa 2:30. Ungana naye Elizabeth Mutuku, usikose.
It is said that cooking is one of the greatest gifts you can give those you love because nothing brings people together like good food. Join Chef Hamadi every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. as he teaches us some simple and quick recipes, only on The Throwdown.
You are the mighty God, the great I am. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
This and every Sunday, TV47 brings church straight to your home.
Come, worship straight from your home as we bring you the Sunday church service at the All Saints Cathedral from 11 a.m.
Kila siku ya Jumatano tunazungumza, tunaulizana na tunajuzana masuala ibuka ya kisiasa.
Kuna Uhuru is not in Kirinyaga.
Maisha yangu ni huru na watu wangu wa Nyali.
Tulivunja vyama vya URP na TNA na vyama vingine tanzu, ndio tukaunda chama inaitwa Jubilee.
Mijadala komavu kuhusu yanayokuhusu, na zaidi ya yote tunakupa nafasi kumfahamu kiongozi wako katika kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi.
Yako kama mtoto ilikuwa gani?
Mimi nilizaliwa, sasa najuaje maisha ilikuwa.
Wakati namuuliza maisha.
Kwanza ilikuwa tu ni jaribu kabisa kufikia pahali ambapo nitafika Nairobi. Najua ilikuwa ni kazi ambayo ilichukua siku mingi sana kufika Nairobi.
Kila siku ya Jumatano kuanzia saa 1:30 hadi saa 2:30. Ungana naye Elizabeth Mutu.
Welcome back to TV47 News Tonight with me, Abu Bakar Abdullahi. Thank you for staying with us here on the county's television. Let's get to more news. And as the Meteorological Department and weather forecast specialist try to gather information about the ever-changing weather patterns and their effects in many parts of the country, KO elders are also using traditional ways to try and understand the patterns, which they say is aimed at helping in avoiding havoc that has been experienced during the long rains that have been experienced in the North Rift region. Calvin Chitwa has the details.
The ever-changing weather patterns have been wreaking havoc in many parts of the country, with the education and agriculture sectors bearing the brand of Mother Nature. Elgeyo Marakwet and Baringo counties have experienced heavy rains that have continued to cause destruction of homes and infrastructure.
Kwa hii area yetu ya Baringo South, ile mashule zinaenda ni nyingi. Tumepoteza secondary schools zaidi ya 6 na tukapoteza primary schools si chini ya 10. Zile primary schools tumepoteza, ambayo idadi ya wanafunzi ni zaidi ya 2,000. Wale wanafunzi sasa watakosa kwenda kusoma.
Many learning institutions in Baringo have been submerged in a recent situation that has dwindled the hopes of schools reopening in the near future.
Na tunaona haitachukua muda hata ya mwezi moja bila hiyo Lake Bogoria tena kupata maji ya bahari ya Lake Bogoria. Lake Bogoria Girls itaenda na itaongeza kuwa shule yetu ya 7 ya secondary school kwenda na maji ya bahari.
We met KO elders during one of their traditional events where they slaughter goats to use them in a ritual of trying to predict the weather patterns.
Tulikuwa na tosare, pengine ni mgonjwa, mbuzi hiyo kama ni mgonjwa haiwezi fanya kazi hiyo.
It's a tradition the elders from this region have observed for decades to try and find ways of avoiding havoc caused by the unpredictable weather. People are advised to move from escarpments to avoid effects of flash floods during heavy rains. The process involves checking the intestines and interpreting its color. The elders have been fundamental in helping the community avoid effects of such calamities and sometimes stopping certain cultural events. Area leaders and meteorologists agree that the elders have been very important in helping the community understand weather patterns and make right decisions about weather.
And this time round we are saying that using this information will make informed decisions that will benefit our farmers.
Wanakuwa utabiri wao na utabiri wetu wa msimu huu unafanana. Kwa hivyo tunaambia wananchi wafanye jinsi wanaweza kufanya kulingana na utabiri huu ambao tumepeana.
The North Rift region has been experiencing intermittent weather patterns, with floods ravaging Elgeyo Marakwet and Baringo counties. Calvin Chitwa, TV47, Uasin Gishu County.
Thank you, our North Rift region reporter Calvin Chitwa, for that report. Now, Tuskys supermarket employees who were laid off recently woke up today to demonstrate in Nairobi. The workers were demanding their salaries days after they were laid off by the retail shop. They are accusing the management of failing to honor their pay promise.
Tilifungwa nikiwa off. Sasa tunasikia tu kuna time after a few days tunatumiwa WhatsApp messages, tunatakana kwenda Greenspan. The next thing we know tulikuwa tupatiwa termination letters. Of which termination hata indicate tunalipwa pesa ngapi na tunafaa kulipwa lini. Kwenda outsourcing offices tunauliza Kemadhi House, tunauliza pesa zetu mnatupatia lini. Now what's all this about? Wanatuambia either you sign it or you don't sign. Amko kazi.
Tuko na familia, tunaumia kwa nyumba. We want our money. Si eti ni pesa yenye tunawakopa, ni pesa yetu tumefanyia kazi. Ukiona kai uniform ni ya bakery. Hii kazi inakuanga hapa ni kama ya umbwa. Shaiona umbwa? Ile kazi unafanya lakini pesa unalipwa kama panya. Sisi tunataka pesa. Si eti tunaomba, we want our money. Na hii demonstration si eti ni ya mwisho. Hii ndio kianzio, tumeanzia saa hii. We are warning you, even tomorrow, next week, hadi mfunge maduka mkitaka kufunga, ndio tujue imeanguka, muende na pesa yetu. Lakini before, tunafanya demonstration, kila duka, we are coming to your headquarters, Mombasa Road. Mfunge vile mulifunga siku ingine, tutapita na nyinyi, tunataka pesa, period.
Now, the first of the 3 presidential debates in the U.S. election took place in Cleveland, Ohio. The two candidates, Biden and Trump, fiercely...
Siku ya Jumatano, tunazungumza, tunaulizana na tunajuzana masuala ibuka ya kisiasa.
He is not in Kirinyaga.
Maisha yangu ni huru na watu wangu wa Nyali.
Tulivunja vyama vya URP na TNA na vyama vingine tanzu, ndio tukaunda chama inaitwa Jubilee.
Mijadala komavu kuhusu yanayokuhusu, na zaidi ya yote tunakupa nafasi kumfahamu kiongozi wako katika kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi.
Yako kama mtoto ilikuwa gani?
Mimi nilizaliwa, sasa najuaje
wakati namuuliza maisha.
Kwanza ilikuwa tu ni jaribu kabisa kufikia pahali ambapo nitafika Nairobi. Najua ilikuwa ni kazi ambayo ilichukua siku mingi sana kufika Nairobi.
Kila siku ya Jumatano kuanzia saa 1:30 hadi saa 2:30. Ungana naye Elizabeth Mutuku, usikose.
It is said that cooking is one of the greatest gifts you can give those you love because nothing brings people together like good food. Join Chef Hamadi every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. as he teaches us some simple and quick recipes, only on The Throwdown.
You are the mighty God, the great I am. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
This and every Sunday, TV47 brings church straight to your home. Come, worship straight from your home as we bring you the Sunday church service at the All Saints Cathedral from 11 a.m.
Kila siku ya Jumatano tunazungumza, tunaulizana na tunajuzana masuala ibuka ya kisiasa.
He is not in Kirinyaga.
Maisha yangu ni huru na watu wangu wa Nyali.
Tulivunja vyama vya URP na TNA na vyama vingine tanzu, ndio tukaunda chama inaitwa Jubilee.
Mijadala komavu kuhusu yanayokuhusu, na zaidi ya yote tunakupa nafasi kumfahamu kiongozi wako katika kipindi Mfahamu kiongozi.
Yako kama mtoto ilikuwa gani?
Mimi nilizaliwa, sasa najuaje maisha ilikuwa
wakati namuuliza maisha.
Kwanza ilikuwa tu ni jaribu kabisa kufikia pahali ambapo nitafika Nairobi. Najua ilikuwa ni kazi ambayo ilichukua siku mingi sana kufika Nairobi.
Kila siku ya Jumatano kuanzia saa 1:30 hadi saa 2:30. Ungana naye Elizabeth Mutuku. Usikose.
It is said that cooking is one of the greatest gifts you can give those you love because nothing brings people together like good food. Join Chef Hamadi every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. as he teaches us some simple and quick recipes, only on The Throwdown.
You are